Left, right, out. We're sitting here March 8th. It's been a couple days since I've posted a video. I got other things I have to do. Uh, Life has to go on. It's not like I make any money off this stuff. Wish I did because I'd be able to do a lot more, but I don't. I'm going to link the article since, I haven't had time to go through this, but we're talking about the Biolabs. A lot of people are finally reporting on it. The Russians have come out with evidence and that there's been, you know, claiming that the Ukrainians were instructed to destroy whatever they could as they come in and take over some of these labs. Now I'll just put this link in the description. You can check it out. It's an article from Veterans Today, done probably a week or so ago, a while ago, and it details some of all these. February 24th, so on the day of the initial invasion. So it details all these labs, kind of what they were doing in some of these labs, some of the agents that were there. Agents as in pathogens that were being used, some of the deaths that were linked to these labs around the area in Ukraine and elsewhere, and some of the documents of what was actually going on there, what was transferred over there, what was some of the weird coincidence, some of the people that were paid off, or lobbied to deal with this. So that's pretty interesting. And like I said, the defense, whatever DRTA or whatever it was, defense. Right now my brain's DTRA. Yeah, those guys plus some other a consortium of other entities that were under these contracts, CIA, all kinds of weird stuff that seems like it'd be just complete conspiracy theory that turns out to be true. In fact, the mainstream media are calling this conspiracy theory, and the State Department has taken those documents off, even though you can find them. And I think if you go all the way down, where is it? One of these articles that I've had, this has all a lot of the documents posted in the article. One of the guys did a really good job, and he had it from the Wayback Machine, and they had captured all these documents that they'd taken off the State Department. But anyways, kind of the same story. Let's go into something else real quick. The markets were way down today, and then they popped right after Biden came out with his Russian oil ban, but has nothing to do with that. There was a story about Zelensky kind of saying that he's more open to agreement, not being accepted in the NATO. Well, that was yesterday or last night with an interview. So I don't know what happened. They kind of repackaged that in that story posted. I don't know wherever all these traders have been sleeping. That story is old news, and some reason the market's now reacting, because right when that story dumped, all of a sudden the market shoots up. I don't know, man. I just been playing it on the other side and not doing too bad, but things don't even look good. If you just take out the Russian-Ukrainian thing, things don't look good for us. We got to look at oil and gas prices, which we can go into other things because prices are going up all across the board everywhere. The inflation's already been created, and it's working its way through the system. See, here's the thing. I'll go into this whole diatribe, and then I'll go back on another topic. So ask yourself this. What happens? What do you do in your life if gasoline prices go up like this, right? You can't, if you're the average person, you can't just go and make that much more money to offset it, right? So then you have to not buy something from somewhere else. So you buy less, food or maybe entertainment or whatnot, in order to still be able to afford to fill up your gas tank. Am I right? You got to cut back somewhere, right? So what does that do to those items you cut back on? Well, that decreases the demand for that, and then that's a pricing pressure downward as long as production is, and we're talking about holding certain variables stagnant there. And so that in itself is not inflationary. That's, I guess, my main point. My brain's not really firing all that well, but rising gas prices, the prices rising in gas is not necessarily inflation. It's not inflation. That's these symptoms of that can be a symptom of inflation, or you see supply shocks or whatever. Inflation is the increase in money supply. So let's say, with that same example, that you still want to maintain your lifestyle, so you go and then put everything else on credit, right? Well, you're conjuring up dollars into existence in order to consume those items and maintain your lifestyle, right? So that in itself is inflation, because you just increased the money supply in a sense, or you did, because you just took credit, you took these money, you created money out of nothing, essentially. So anyway, that's a whole other thing. So that's what keep harping on what inflation really is and what it isn't. So yeah, we got, looks like oil actually popped off, came off with that news too. So that's weird. So you're $122 a barrel. It was hitting 130. But we'll see how this unfolds, because Zelensky's out there popping his mouth on a lot of things, and I'm glad. Even I was kind of duped by like the nuclear thing. I was like, well, we got some real issues with that nuclear power plant attack, which I mean, I don't know necessarily believed it was just a straight up attack on a nuclear power plant, but a lot of that was falsified, disinformation. But it's been pervaded throughout mainstream media, and it's okay for them to have disinformation because it's the noble lie. But I pride myself in trying to discern through that, and sometimes you get caught too. So, but anyway, that's why I'm very hesitant on believing anything the Western media has to say, or even Russia. But at least Russia, RT or whatever, they're known as a state-sponsored entity, and our state-sponsored entities masquerading as independent voices. But there's another thing. So real quick. So keep that thought on the media. But Ukraine, Russia, right now, Kiev is being surrounded. If you look at the latest tactical map, pretty much the whole Eastern Front's kind of basically connected there. And it looks like, especially in the south, which I believe was like probably the most effective force of the Russians coming out of Crimea and some of their other amphibious landings, and they kind of pushed up and then connected with Donbass. That seemed to be one of their most effective military accesses on the attack, but they're more into policing and really securing those towns down there, it looks like, because they're really, from the available intelligence that you can see, like, so there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of things, so it's hard to gather proper intel. It didn't look like they've pushed up further north. I think now it looks like that one axis coming from the northeast has hit the east side of Kiev, and we'll see what happens. I think they're trying to allow civilians to get out before they go in, which, we've talked about the tactics, what the Ukrainians should be doing at this point, and setting up for, sucking them in an insurgent style warfare and harassing the lines, which it doesn't seem like they're doing very, very much of, harassing these supply lines, these stalled or parked. I want to call them stalled because I don't know why the convoys are stopped. Besides the fact I can see them allowing civilians to go through staging, and just the fog of war, the inability to utilize anything besides the roads themselves. But go into that at some other time. So that's the status I can see right now. We'll see what Zelensky does. I know they're trying to send arms to these guys. At this point, we just kind of got to let it play out, right? We're 2 weeks into this thing, and all the shock of it, I think, is starting to wear off people. And now we're just see what happens, and we can see the feckless West is kind of trying to conduct an economic campaign against Russia, which we really got to think about those sanctions. A lot of this stuff is actually just hurting Russian people and hurting ourselves. So I don't know necessarily. Sanctions tend to lead to warfare by pushing people into a corner or a box and forcing them to react. We can look at Japan in World War II and various other examples, but especially when you go after the populace. And then with that in mind, the rhino types, the warmongers, tend to believe that will induce an uprising. But in a country like Russia, you're more apt to have that backfire and induce more further action in order to gain control. But what is happening now in this kind of like modern age, it seems as though you're just creating and solidifying alliances that you don't necessarily want, and that comes in the terms of China and Russia and India and Iran, which is already, and Syria and Turkey and these other areas. India's trying to, they're trying to come up with a method to bilateral agreement to still conduct trade with Russia. Now, okay, you've probably heard all that. It seems like there's starting to be a little bit better reporting on all this stuff. Let's go on to our own media. Apparently, this is outside the war. Apparently, during this whole COVID thing, was getting paid to the tune of, however many big bucks, let's just say, in order to push said whatever, treatment of sort, and non-therapeutic, other treatment, the one that comes in 2 or 3 various subsequent installments, but they were paid to push the narrative on that. So that's got to be alarming. So if you think that RT and them are pushing a narrative for the Russians, and you think that you need to ban them, ban these other forms of speech, and then now you realize that your own media is being bought off, or they have been in various ways, but now it's out there that they were receiving, even some small channels, YouTube, receiving funds from the federal government to be pro something. Now that seems pretty specious at best to me. That's very alarming. And you should know at this point that you need to just be able to get multiple different points of views, and there should be no censoring of people's thoughts. There should be only a battlefield of ideas in which those ideas are either won or lost on that battlefield. And you cannot under no means censor anybody's speech, because then you don't know what the actual intent of the censorer is when he does that, or who's the underlying real manipulator there. So if you have a good idea, then it should withstand the attack of a bad idea. So let's just think about it like that. So anyway, you can look into that. There's some people that are reporting on that, and very, very alarming, because you're like, where do you turn for the actual news? Well, if you haven't learned, you can't just turn to one source. You have to be able to get multiple different points of views and discern for yourself what the truth is. There is a truth. You just have to wipe away all the the lies around it. But anyway, I'm going to put that link in the description, and we'll talk to you later. Peace.